Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy technology principles applications. This video is about Earth's magnetic field and the coming changes with that field, and this is highly unconventional, this information. Unless you work at a top secret facility around the world that focuses on this type of technology, then you already know everything I'm talking about and much more. In fact, it would be really cool if those top secret facilities that have just been harboring this information and all this information for decades, if they could just release some of it to the schools, the colleges, the universities around the world, it would literally revolutionize education as we know it. It would open up so many eyes and solve so many problems in physics and so many things that they tackle that they just are struggling so hard to find answers for. And so for example, there's always this there's this public persona, like what people hear and the information they get in the public from science and even in the school, in the classrooms. And then there's also how scientists talk about these things behind closed doors off the record. And there's so many issues that they're literally like, we don't know. Yeah, we say that stuff in public and we have some math to back it up, but when you really think about it, when we really discuss it behind closed doors, we're pretty sure that's not how things are working. And we're pretty sure that we don't have the answers yet to what that is, even though we tell all these publications and all these online sites and everything how this is really working. We really don't believe that behind closed doors. And so what's an example of that? Like one example of that would be spinning. Rotation. So everything from subatomic particles all the way up to galaxies, how is it that everything is still spinning? And how is it that planets like ours in particular and other planets that have a lot of drag on them, drag from satellites or moons or whatever you want to say, how is it that they continue to spin, and how is it that subatomic particles and particles continue to spin and rotate in the midst of a lot of resistance, and we see increases. We see increases in those forces, increases in that rotational speed. So this type of model, this etheric magnetic model of the universe, it really attempts to explain all of that with this flow of energy through all systems. That is like a pressure flow, it's a flow of attract, and so it keeps everything in rotation, it keeps everything moving. And it's a measurable, quantifiable energy that goes through all systems. And obviously, yes, I know the scientists, the top secret scientists know this. Of course they know this, and they know much more than that. But it's that whole type of, if they could just trickle that information down, it would just change reality on this planet as we know it. And I think we're ready for that. Don't you think we're ready for that? I don't know. What's another thing? Scientists are very aware of subatomic magnetic fields that come and go, and that boost things like muons, and there's interaction with these subatomic particles and atom magnetic field interactions. And the reason this kind of applies to the Earth's magnetic field is because it not only does it happen at a subatomic level, it happens at a planetary, solar system, and galactic level. And it's this whole idea that science, because of our restrictions right now with technology and our inability to look beyond the physical world, they look at interactions, and there's powerful subatomic magnetic field interactions that come and go in the blink of an eye. And so they're often, you'll hear this idea that their lifespan is milliseconds, microseconds, and it's like they see these particles come in and out of our existence, and then this idea of subatomic components that come in and out of our existence so quickly that they can barely even be measured. And so they think that they have a short lifespan, or they think that the universe is they're decaying super fast, or they're coming in and out. And that's their death rate, their birth rate and death rate is a microsecond. But the thing is, in this model, all of those things that come in and out of our existence play a part in that, and they are all encoded with information. So just because they're jumping dimensionally and they're jumping in and out of our existence doesn't mean they are dying. It means they're you could say they're transmuting, they're changing their purpose, they're changing their resonant vibration, their resonant frequency, but they're still serving a purpose. And why is that important? Why is this whole magnetic energy, etheric energy that's causing everything to spin, and this whole pressure system that's interdimensional, and then this short existence of lifespan and everything, why is all of that important? Because if they understand that process, if they understand that spin process, if they understand that quick decay of neutrons, what they would, many of them we would say are neutron decay, but if they understand all that process, then you can tap into that energy and utilize that energy, utilize that flow of energy, and have what Faraday would say is you're tapping into the wheelwork of nature. You have an unlimited amount of energy that you can work with. You have an unlimited amount of rotation for devices that is free of charge, essentially, because you're tapping into the system. And that leads into all of the technology, like on our website and all the videos that I do and everything. So it's this paradigm shift that is so critical that we have to move into in science, and the release of that information, no longer suppressing scientists at a university level that have some sort of breakthrough in this, and they immediately get suppressed. They immediately get their funding cut. They get their information confiscated. They get their devices confiscated. And stop all of the confiscation and the suppression and let them move forward in these new areas of revelation and excitement and these new discoveries, and start to catch up to the top secret labs around the world, so that everyone can kind of get on the same page and start thinking that free energy isn't just a myth, that neutral magnetic energy isn't a myth, that it's real, and that there are devices that can actually help humanity and save us from so many problems that are all over the place. So, along with that, let's move into the Earth's magnetic field and how this system can work from this model's point of view. And so one of these quotes that I have to share with you is, the configuration of the reactor determines the calibration of the flow through. So what this is talking about is, this part of this teaching is how the Earth's system is working, how the magnetic field around the Earth is established. And one of these days, hopefully I'll be guided to do a video on the Earth's core and the information we're given on the Earth's core. They refer to the core as a reactor, and that it's far more interesting than the super compressed fluid iron thing, that iron core that's spinning and trying to create some random magnetic field or whatever. It's far more interesting than that, and it's not this what they call the reactor inside the core of inside the center of our planet. It's the reactor isn't necessarily generating a magnetic field around the Earth, but it is certainly a conduit for that energy, and what it does is it kind of calibrates, if you want to say that, it calibrates the incoming magnetic etheric energy into the system, and puts the correct resonant and pulse rate and all of that, the intensity of that, all throughout the field. So you have this magnetosphere, and you have different polarities in the magnetosphere, including down to neutral areas of it. You have a different a manifestation that has different parts in that field. And so there's a bit of complexity in that, but the overall idea of it, though, is at the edge of that field, as it morphs and as it changes, it's always in a state of change. It's always in a state of renewal with the energy that's coming in. And the point of transference at the edge of that field, that is where the interdimensional energy exchange takes place, and then flows through the system and through that reactor, and then out the system, and then out the other side of that, the other side of the field, where you would have an entry and an exit to that. And all of that, from an advanced technology point of view, is extremely critical, how all of that works. And this whole idea of like the Earth's core is kind of has this like multi-function thing, like the conventional model with the iron spinning, and it's funny because there's a lot of assumptions made about what's in the center of the Earth, but if you ask a scientist behind the closed doors, they'll say we have no freaking clue of really what's going on. We have a lot of technology like deep penetration stuff, and we analyze earthquakes data and all of that, but we really don't know what's happening. There's a lot of assumptions being made. And it's interesting because they'll even detect counter-rotating magnetic fields in the core, and so that makes everything even more interesting. Like, okay, so assuming there's no etheric flow or magnetic flow from a higher dimension and all that, how on earth do we have counter-rotating magnetic fields in the core of the Earth that have been over billions of years? Why haven't they slowed down? And then why do they actually appear to speed up and slow down and speed up and go through all these cycles? And they'll give like kind of a BS rhetoric of that, but behind closed doors they're like, this is like crazy and impossible how this is even happening. But when you start in thinking about an interdimensional exchange of energy and etheric magnetic flow and that pressure flow and that draw through the system, it really explains what's happening. And so inside of the Earth system of energy, you can have multiple expressions or manifestations or what we would call magnetic circuits that take place, all overlapping each other and all working within the same generating system or generating force, but they don't necessarily, like, there's not a cause and effect relationship. So like you could have, like, for example, the gravity circuit along with the rotational circuit, along with the Earth's magnetic field. And just those three things alone, and there's much more, but those three things alone, they have a certain amount of independence from each other in this model, and at the same time, they can overlap and exist within the same space, if that makes sense. Now there are fields, and there's been a little bit of discovery on this from NASA already on satellites, but there are much larger, much more subtle fields around the Earth, much larger than the magnetosphere, that are very important to these processes that I'm referring to, like to the magnetic field, to the rotational field, much larger toroidal fields that go much farther out than the magnetosphere, and much more subtle energy fields. And those at some point, as the technology advances and we get more into space travel and neutral magnetic energy, those fields will be incredibly detailed and analyzed at right down to a subatomic level, because they are so critical in the functioning of our planet and the planet's relationship to the solar system and the sun and other planets, and then to the galactic cycle as well, and the galactic circuit. So all of those things are very important. But for this purpose, we've been seeing, of course, scientists have been seeing a decline in the Earth's magnetic field and the strength of the magnetic field, and that's part of this process, this incredibly tight-lined, like orchestrated pull shift that's happening. And there's already, you see like a lot of the BS, the rhetoric out, like, and I'm sure it's going to get worse, like of how the pole shift is 15 to 20,000 years away still, and there's nothing to worry about. And like behind closed doors, all the other top secret scientists are like, oh my God, like it's literally at our doorstep. And they're like, but we're telling everybody it's 15 to 20,000 years away. Try to keep everybody calm. Just keep everybody calm. The thing is, with what's happening on our planet right now, not only with like whatever Earth changes, but it's the contamination that our planet is adding to the galactic cycle that cannot be allowed to go on for 15 or 20,000 years. That's just not even an option at all. And this timeline, this accelerated timeline that is being pushed with this pole shift right now, is just going to accelerate more. And so we will see a dramatic decline in the magnetic field in the next few years. And according to what we were told, and I hold loosely to all of this because I understand that there's so much process of change, and so that things, aren't always set in stone. And I hope you see that as well, and you use your own intuition, your own guidance, your consciousness to decide what is true for you, because I'm not trying to tell anybody this is the truth. I'm just trying to share the information that we were given. And around 2027, we should be seeing a incredibly dramatic decrease in the Earth's magnetic field around 2027. And so this like accelerated decline in the Earth's magnetic field in preparation for a new field, a new draw of energy coming in through our planet and coming in through the reactor in the center of the planet that will establish a new magnetic field that is much more intense, much stronger, vibrates at a higher frequency, and gives a lot more shielding and protection around this planet, along with a whole host of other things that we really need to happen on this planet. One of the things we are told is that there are very, very much needed new polarities on our planet, and that has to do with consciousness, that has to do with helping the environment, that has to do with regulating the ionosphere, and as we move into this new cycle, just having a much stronger and more intense magnetic field that will be online. So as that old system is cut off, it's like the draw downstream from our solar system, if you want to say it that way, that draw is being cut off of the old magnetic field and the new magnetic field coming online, and it will replace that. So there will be a period of changeover, and that's kind of significant, but it should be past the peak of this current solar cycle. Now, even if it's 90% diminished, even a small amount of that magnetic field can still be, and it is, and it still will be, extremely important for shielding life on this planet. So, and it should be a relatively fast changeover as the new field starts to build and comes online. Now, here's the thing. So you've got the Earth's magnetic field, you've got a gravitational, like the Earth's magnetic circuit, the gravitational circuit, and then the rotational circuit. And as you've noticed, and scientists have very well been documenting this, even though the Earth's magnetic field has been in decline, you have not seen a decrease in rotation. So and in fact, rotation has actually very, very slightly sped up, and that will continue to happen. And in this new cycle, there will be a slightly faster rotation than what we have right now. So just because the Earth's magnetic field declines, it doesn't necessarily mean anything is going to happen to the rotational speed of the planet. And at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean anything is going to happen to the gravitational circuit on the planet. So, like right now, the conventional model is so ridiculously crude. This idea of you could say it's even centripetal and centrifugal forces competing. So you have the spinning, wants to throw everything off the planet in the conventional model, but then the huge mass of the planet tries to hold everything down. And so in this model, that really none of that even applies, because mass is not a function, gravity is not a function of mass. And so you have a gravity circuit that keeps everything in place, including the ionosphere and the atmosphere. And that gravity circuit, even if rotation slowed down significantly, that gravity circuit would still be going unless something directly impacted that gravity circuit as well. And so the gravity circuit, the rotational circuit, the magnetic field circuit, they coexist in the same system but don't necessarily affect each other directly, if that makes sense. And so I guess that's good news, because there's some really wild stuff out there that's saying, oh my gosh, everything's going to float away, and if the magnetic field drops. And that's not, in this model, we would say, no, that's not true at all, because the gravity circuit is still perfectly intact. And again, and I've repeated this, or I've said this in other videos, from this model, from the information we've given, absolutely nothing is wrong with the core of the Earth, or what they would say is the reactor inside the Earth. Nothing at all is wrong with it. In fact, it's in extremely good condition, and it's going through a very positive change that will very much be a benefit to humanity and to the future on this planet. And so yeah, if you just think about like those systems kind of being independent, but also all part of the same system, and there's other things too that interact with that, and like you could say like the ionosphere, weather circuit, and all kinds of things, they coexist within each other, but as long as they maintain their separate resonance frequencies, their pulse rates, they don't vie for each other's attention. They will coexist just fine and all perform their functions perfectly. And they each generate different types of fields. They each have their own fields of exchanges, their own resonant frequencies, and all of that. So I think that's about it. And so 2027, we could see a very sharp decline. And I don't really even know if there's any way to prepare for that. I mean, you could get into the whole thing, well, make sure you have, 10 feet of earth above you. But I don't think it's going to get to that point, at least from what we are told. It's not going to get to this like catastrophic cosmic ray point, because there's really no way to protect yourself or society from that without like the neutral magnetic pulsing field technology. And so I think at this point, what's being done and what's happening on our planet is going to be still safe. We're still going to go through this, and it's not something to necessarily be that alarmed about, even though there's a lot of people that are just freaking out and saying, oh my God, it's the end of humanity. It's the end of life as we know it. The Earth's magnetic field declined and everything. And I mean, according to what we're told, that's absolutely not the case. And in fact, this is going to be a very beneficial thing for humanity and for the planet. And we should get through the other side. So most of us, hopefully, just fine. And so with that, man, you try to be positive about such a dire topic. At least some people think it's a dire topic. With that, please send in questions about this. I know this is a quick synopsis of this in a quick video, but please send in questions if you have them, and post comments and all that, and I will try to keep you informed. I never know what video is going to be the last video. I really don't. I mean, for all I know, the guidance or what's who knows. I mean, it could be shut down from the authorities, it could be shut down from the guides. So I'll just keep doing them as I'm guided to do so, and trying to provide the information that I am supposed to be providing. And with that, I will see you next time.